is on this day of International Day of Peoples with Disability. And the theme is a day for all, a day for each and every one of you. But are not all days for everybody? If it is so, then why such a session? Why has the UN General Assembly thought of something like this? Hello? Hello? जी? नहीं, मैंने वीडियो ऑफ कर रखा है. I've just put the audio on. अच्छा. Okay. अच्छा, sorry. Okay. I'm on unmute only. Is it? Am I audible now? Yeah. Am I? Yes. That's what I'm talking about. The StreamYard wale pe. Is it audible? I can see myself, but I don't know if am I audible or not. I have been translating for a bit, but अब छूट जाएगा अगर मैं फोन पे बात करूँगी तो. Hello. I am already on the Zoom link. In the different laptop, I'm using the Zoom link, and on my iPad, I'm using the StreamYard link, and the StreamYard link. Acha. Oh. Acha. Okay. All right. I have already muted myself. I'm already on call. Acha, I didn't know. I did it with a different O. Okay. All right. Okay.
हेलो हेलो निकिता मैम. निकिता का नंबर ग्रुप में डाला. हेलो हेलो निकिता मैम. ये सुन भी नहीं रही यार. वो खुद फोन पे है. साइन लैंग्वेज इंग्लिश में है. Attendees. निकिता कुछ बोल रही थी. ध्यान देना चाहिए जब पर्सन की डिसेबिलिटी का बात जब करते हैं पर्सन की डिसेबिलिटी को
तो अब मैं इस पे क्लिक कर दूं। जी, तो मैं आई जस्ट स्टार्ट। हाँ जी जी, मैं जस्ट the third community, which is amongst the which is very vulnerable, are the blind people. And they are blind, and there are people who are blind and deaf together. And it's important that there should be something for the rehabilitation of such members of the community. Those who have managed to achieve something within the special education spectrum, we have no special school, no inclusivity towards deaf blind students in the education system. Other states have also highlighted one condition, and hence the inclusive policy that we hope to start, that there should be a policy which is considerate of these differences and inclusive. The other aspect is access to information. So I think there should be a part of inclusive education from experiential learning to every day-to-day activities which lead a positive development should be included in the inclusive policy, and should be dynamic in nature and should not be stagnant. And hence the negative aspects that are present should be removed, and hence information and resources is a vital platform which should be updated regularly in a uniform fashion. The other policy with regard to health emergencies, like for instance the COVID-19 pandemic, so any disability, so within such a pandemic it's very important to deal with the basic minimum needs that people with disabilities have. Why should we address such needs? So preparedness for health and emergency situations, there are people who take regular therapy. If due to the pandemic their services were stopped, and hence it was hazardous to their health to not have access to such services. Further, access to medicines such as telemedicine services are not available to people with disabilities. or other vulnerable communities. And even with regard to access to public transport service in order to have access to medicines has also been hampered due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Hence, there is a requirement for caregivers during the pandemic also. And those caregivers who could not come to the places where they were needed during COVID 19, and caregivers were considered to be health workers during the pandemic, and there was a government notification regarding the same, and hence caregivers were given access to continue with their daily life activities of caregiving. Then, for instance, if there is a person with disabilities who is wheelchair bound, if there's something wrong with their equipment, now, due to the pandemic, access to service towards maintenance of such devices was not dealt with. And hence, it has also hampered people who depend upon such services. Like, for instance, the tricycle, the hearing aid, or braille appliances. All appliances need regular maintenance, replacement of parts, etc. And hence it's sometimes we find it difficult to maintain or repair such equipments. And hence preparedness, when we talk about preparedness, there is a relevant element of maintenance which is important. Like, for instance, my wife's blood pressure is very high, and to check her blood pressure she needs to regularly go to the hospital. But during pandemic 19 all of it has stopped. So till 17 days I was in home quarantine. I was living in a separate area. And during the same time, her blood pressure couldn't be checked, and her health deteriorated a lot during this period. Now, if you don't check your blood pressure, how is it that you can give medication for the same? And the similar problem can be extended towards, say, for instance, somebody who is visually challenged. Like, for instance, the special equipments for checking blood pressures of blind people are there. However, the government and the civil society organizations, we do not have access to such equipments. Hence, the COVID-19 is a very good reflection as to how we need to strengthen the mechanisms at play today. With regard to our sustainable development goals, which talks about no one should be left behind, should be comprehensively examined and utilized, that nobody should be left behind, should be inbuilt, and all monitoring indicators should be studied in the same light, and hence be checked in a full-fledged fashion. हेलो हेलो यस सर आई हैव बीन आई थिंक वो उनके साथ फ़ोन पे बात भी होगी हो गई बट अभी सर तो इंग्लिश में ही बोल रहे सो आई एम नॉट ट्रांसलेटिंग राइट नाउ लाइक दैट वे ओके सर ऑलराइट बट सर अगर स्ट्रीमिंग प्रॉपर नहीं हुई है ना तो व्हाट वी कैन डू इज इफ दिस थिंग इज रिकॉर्डेड I can take a day and just re-record everything and send it because I have a feeling पूरा तो record नहीं हुआ है sir. वी विल हैव टू डू थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा मतलब सेशन के बाद पूरा रिकॉर्ड हो जाए ना सर उसके बाद आप मुझे एक वीडियो भेज दें लिंक गूगल ड्राइव पे लगा दें एंड देन मैं ट्रांसलेट कर दूंगी आई थिंक दैट विल बी बेटर एज अपोज टू दिस यस सर दैट आई एम एबल टू डू बट आई डोंट नो अब वो पक्का से वापस सुनाई दे रहा है कि नहीं दैट इज व्हाट आई एम कंफ्यूज्ड विद ओके सर मैंने बीच बीच में किया तो है सर बट अब कितना हुआ है नहीं हुआ है दैट आई डोंट नो इज दिस ऑलराइट is this alright yes okay sir yeah okay sir I'll just continue then. Sir has very nicely showcased today's the context of today's program. And when we talk about inclusion, the way you've talked about how people with disabilities face the challenges and the different aspects that they face. Now we would listen to the community representatives and who face day-to-day challenges. We see challenges in three aspects in access to livelihood, access to wash, and social protection. And all these three aspects are vital for anybody, just as vital it is for anybody else. It's also vital for people with disabilities. And we would like to talk about so we would request Swagat to please to please introduce the community representatives. Good afternoon to everybody. Today, when we talk about people with disabilities, there are a lot of teams that are associated with us, and I'd like to introduce a few of them. For instance, Kasturi Patra, Pramodari Maharana are people with disabilities and associated with us and working with us. And for themselves as well as for others, they are an inspiration. That how, if we are people with disabilities and yet we have achieved such milestones in lives, and we have and they have started working on their own livelihood. For instance, Kasturi Didi works with children and works on snacked goods which are packed and sold. And her husband also assists her in this. And at a certain level, they have achieved a thing in life, and they are not dependent on other people anymore. Another person is Pramodani Didi, who has a ration shop and works specifically for giving day to day livelihood essentials goods to everybody. They have lent out loan also to a few people, and they have also they have also got a loan from Swabhiman to ensure that the ration shop is well maintained and can be in a position to assist more people. And along with giving inspiration to others, they are themselves moving ahead in life. So we have Kasturi Didi online. Sorry, we are not in a position to hear Swagat. So we'll translate what Kasuri Didi is saying in Odia from Hindi to English. So what is Pramodini Didi was saying was the change that COVID 19 brought about in her life, like for instance, with regard to her ration shop, they could not manage to keep supplies of all the rations properly. But whatever supplies that they had, they shared it with the community and they helped them also. And they took support from the community as well. And if right now there is support that they need and from the government or the organization, they would try to take that. They would reach, they would accomplish things themselves as well as take the community forward too. Kasturi Didi further said that her health has deteriorated right now. There's some problem with regard to her hand and it hurts probably and she can't work so much. And for instance, if there is any physiotherapy or acupressure or such services can be availed for her, then her own problems can also be dealt with, but the same are not being dealt with. And hence, even if you go for physiotherapy, it is relatively more expensive. And if there is any government scheme or any organization that has something like this, some such services, it will be really helpful. She's also saying that in case there is any skill training with regard to sanitation, making phenyl or hand sanitizer, if there is some type of training that can be given to her, then 5 to 6 people can come together and have some source of income in this pandemic situation. Thank you, Pramodani and Kasturi Didi. Without any further delay, I would request from Jaipur, our Jaipur team to continue. And from Jaipur community, we have Asha ji from Rajiv Nagar Kachi Basti. And Asha ji wants to put her points forward. And I would request Asha to put her points forward. Asha ji, please. Her name is Asha, and she's from Rajiv Nagar Kachi Basti. She's from Rajiv Nagar Kachi Basti, and she's differently abled and also a woman. And with regard to Corona, and there was a lot of problems with regard to waste management and throwing of garbage and trash. And we are hoping that in our neighborhood, the government planned garbage pickers can come in, and if there is somebody who's differently abled, and from such people's houses, maybe there can be some government assistance towards collecting garbage that's been kept in the house that can be collected. And she has two children who are young, and she cannot send them outside, and there is a lot of garbage that's left in her property, and she finds it difficult to dispose of the same, owning to her disability. In this case of pandemic, if the garbage stays out, it the garbage stays out and it stinks, and it's not a hygienic condition, and we hope that the government garbage collectors or the municipal services, they come and they pick up the garbage, and if there are other people who need such services, should have a platform from the should have some sort of assistance from the government on this regard. And especially in our neighborhood, there there are only certain areas of the neighborhood where this the municipality collects garbage from, but not from all the areas, and hence this is a very big problem. And with regard to wash, with regard to the wash and health sanitation issue, it's a big problem considering I can't walk, and hence it's important some help can be extended to us. Now we have Manju Bhatt, ma'am. So Manju Bhatt ji is from Swabi Basti. Greetings to everybody. My name is Manju. I'm from Shani Basti. I'm a widowed, and I have a child of 14 to 15 years, 17 years, sorry. And considering he's differently abled, it's very important that there should be a toilet in my house, because I'm not in a position to take him outside to use such facilities. If I can't, he's 14 to 17 years, I am not in a position to carry him and help him cross the road and go to a public toilet. And the problem is to carry him in my hands. It's very problematic. And if there is some wash related assistance that can be provided for him, so that he can have access to clean toilet, it'll be very easy and helpful for him. Otherwise, considering I'm a widow, it's very difficult for me to manage everything by myself, and hence there is a lot of trouble for me. And I hope that other people like me also receive the assistance that they need. And hence they should have some toilet or waterway facility established for them. Now we also have Shivji from Rajiv Nagar. So Rajiv Nagar, Kachi Basti, Ward number 31, Rajnalpura, has worked a lot for ward level interventions, and also a representative for people with disabilities who represents the needs of the community in front of authorities. Greetings to everybody. My name is Shiv Prasad. I'm from Rajiv Nagar, and I'm differently abled, and I have a tricycle, and I sell goods from toys and biscuit and toffees for children. And during the COVID-19, it was very problematic for me. Otherwise, I used to have a daily wage. However, due to the pandemic, I had a lot of trouble with my finances. And I'm requesting the government that people who are differently able should have a place, and they should also have access to loans so that their daily livelihood can be undertaken, and they can take the loan and build a home and ensure that they can help ex- and I would like to tell the government that people who are differently abled don't receive the assistance that they need, and they don't, and all remedies are not given to them in a time bound fashion. And hence it's very important that the discrimination that we face, and we are not in a position to do anything else for ourselves, and we have and I have a wife and I have two children, and it is a really problematic situation that I have, especially during corona, and I request that the government pay some attention to us. The last speaker from the community is Chiranji Lal from Babu Basti, and I request Chiranji Lal to put his thoughts ahead. Greetings, my name is Chiranji Lal. I'm 80 years old. I have paralysis in some part of my body, and I request the government that people with disabilities and should receive the necessary assistance that they need. Any assistance provided by the government would be great helpful. Anything with regard to pension specifically. I am old, and I have a wife, and I have a child, and my wife works in other people's homes, and she takes care of me. Hence, if there is any assistance that can be extended to me, it would be great. And I would request the government to do the same for me. And hence, that our daily sustenance can be taken care of. And even pre COVID, I have had paralysis. And the situation has deteriorated regularly since. There is a need for free medicines for paralysis, and if there is a government scheme or free medicines that are provided by the government, there should be also some access to pension. If the government deals with this, it will be great. So thank you everybody for being here. So we've seen that there have been two, three things that have been highlighted, and assistance with regard to wash, or garbage assistance, or uh, disposing garbage or going to the toilet. And we've seen the challenges that a differently abled woman faces, or the challenges that a differently abled child and the widowed mother face, and a woman who has issues with her leg and is unable to climb stairs. The challenges they face are highlighted, and also how the government assisted services are not in a position to reach to them, and hence face a lot of problem. That all their representatives, the the access, there are policies that exist, however, or at the ground root, be it medicines, be it pension, be it loan, these are not approachable and not accessible to people. And hence there is a need for an enabling environment where not only social protection and wash, but also they are also in a position to live with dignity and take forward their life. And any assistance from the government for people with disabilities is will be essential and will be great if they can be inclusive, put in. And this is one of the recommendations for the meeting today. We'd like to introduce Bhushan Pranani sir, who's been working with blind people for a really long time. So, Mr. Bhushan Punani, we have Dr. Bhushan Punani with us, who is the Executive Secretary for Blind People's Association. I think the biggest achievement of Mr. Punani is that from a managerial perspective, he's worked excellently with the Blind People Association, and he studied from the Indian Institute of Management from 1978, and therefore he has joined. Thereafter, he's joined the Blind People Association. And if we talk about his achievements, there are two awards also that he has received: the Helen Keller Award and RIFI Award. And he has almost presented around 100 papers and is considered to be an excellent motivational speaker. And there are a lot of things to add about his introduction. However, I'd pass it on to Mr. Bhushan now. Now, are the slides visible? Okay, firstly, I'm glad that I have an opportunity like this to talk. And this topic is very new for me. WASH is very new. But when I started to work on this, I was very happy and grateful that in our legislative framework there are a lot of remedies available for us. However, the wash components have also managed to find a platform within the People with Disabilities Act, but it's disappointing to say that there has been no work on this platform. Firstly, I'd like to talk about what our friends said from Bhubaneswar and Jaipur, and I'm completely um agreeable with them with what they said. That what they should have, what the government should have done for people with disabilities during COVID, for instance, pension. Our PM said that the people from the Divyang members, people with disabilities, shall have 1500 rupees and access to money which has not been received. But those who have not received pension and assistance that they need, if are not accessible, whose all those people with disabilities whose work have been hampered due to the COVID-19, and around thousands of people have been affected by the same. And we're well aware of that, and that there's no assistance also that has been further provided them. There's some places like, for instance, in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu, there've been some worked in, and especially in Tamil Nadu, they gave 5,000 rupees to people with disabilities. If Tamil Nadu can give it, why are other states not in a position to do the same? And one thing that Sanyas mentioned, that such people who are not kept inside the home, the, if they suffer from disease, the first thing is it's it's wrong to, and legally it's considered to be legally wrong to remove anybody from the house. And in the criminal procedure code, there are um new law which states that such people who are removed from their house can receive legal recourse and legal remedies. And we have a Supreme Court judgment from Deen Dayal Upadhyay urban housing schemes, where Bhubaneswar also has such houses, where such houses that there, like for instance, the same has been extended in Gujarat also. There was uh, this person from Gujarat who managed to seek. Now, due to CFR's motivation, I had been working on this issue, and with regard to WASH and how people with disabilities in this field, the first thing that I agree with what everybody has said, that all the WASH related assistance and services are essential for people with disabilities, and more important during the COVID-19 period. The first people who can't see, who have limited mobility and intellectual disability, if we need to save them from COVID, it's very important that WASH services be provided to them, because for COVID-19, wash related services for mask, washing hands is absolutely essential during during the COVID-19, because if they travel out in their tricycle or use their, it's very important that they wash and clean themselves. And we've developed a technique for mobility, keeping mobility in mind. And but we need to really highlight how wash component needs to be highlighted during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we don't have any evidence of any authority have extended any assistance. There have been some states who have done some work. However, there has been no work on field. And Sanyas, is very important that we do advocacy which has been promised to us about the expectations should be fulfilled. A lot of states have also provided food grains which lasted for a few time only and could not thereafter continue, and we don't know when the vaccine is going to come and where this pandemic is going to end, and hence access to food and grains is essential. For instance, the other aspect of COVID-19 hospitals, the treatment, and people with disabilities, there have not been special measures which have been undertaken in hospitals. We had to shift a woman from this woman from from COVID ward back to her home because she was not receiving the assistance that she needed, and hence it's important that at least there should be some COVID hospitals which deal with the needs of people with disabilities. Hence, those who are blind, it's very important that any escort or any assistance on those lines are not available, and this is absolutely essential to be. And it's very important that some NGOs have done some work, and a lot of green kits were distributed in Blind People's Association, sanitizers and masks also. But when the entire nation is doing or suffering from this, but uh, the government should do something especially for people with disabilities also and try and move this forward. Moving ahead, and there are some guidelines that I'd like to talk about, that our rights of people with disabilities act has been recognized and are also highlighted, keeping wash and need, and which should be acceptable because there are legislative framework for the same. And firstly, I'd like to talk about rights of people with disability act. Is the foundation of it is on equal opportunities and accessibility, and hence it's important that wash facilities, if it's given to someone else, then the same facility in the same fashion should also be extended towards people with disabilities, are important and essential, and our legal framework says the same way, to give an equal opportunity and have equal accessibility towards this. This is not a new demand or not a new idea. This is something that has been legally recognized, and hence it's important to provide such assistance. Second aspect is on reasonable accommodation, which is completely lacking. If a person with disability, it's absolutely essential and important to reduce the disability of such people, is to have, there is this American term called reasonable accommodation, which is being which has been framed within our legal remedies, and it's important that our parliament and our legal framework provides these remedies, and hence it should be provided. And I would like to repeat that this is not an illegitimate demand, and this is a very legal remedy that I'm and legal platform that I'm trying to represent. And hence we'd have to work and do some advocacy work related to the same. And the third point is that on public facilities and services, we have recognized it in our legal framework, and what are public facilities, what are services, and in this section we've highlighted that utilities and public services fall should be accessible to people with disabilities, and the government will make provisions which are necessary for such assistance, where Section 5 of the People with Disabilities Act showcases it the mandating of such services, especially with regard to public utilities, and it's essential to connect them with people with disabilities. And it's very disappointing to say that these sections have none of the states have managed to uh, I would request people from different states to convince their states to implement this act, and especially considering the section of public utilities should be mandated. Another aspect of Section 8, all people with disabilities and should have, if there is any disaster or any conflict, if there is a humanitarian emergency, then people with disabilities, all the all the assistance that can be provided to people with disabilities is essential. And I think if we look at the COVID-19, this is the worst disaster that we've faced in such a long time, and it's the entire world has been in the cobweb of this particular pandemic, and hence it's important that our authorities and our states implement the rights of the people. And I'd like to state that this is just the legal framework that stating. Another section is Section 24, which talks about such the government has to make sure that there are such necessary legal aspect of which Section 24, which talks about how the government needs to make necessary schemes and programs to promote that people with disabilities have an adequate standard of living, which is independent. It should be safeguarded, and yes, which has already been recognized in Section 24. And hence, during COVID, it's absolutely essential to provide these remedies. And in the same framework, it's very important to have community centers where good living conditions are present, where such a child, where should such a child go, where there are good conditions with regard to healthcare, counseling, and such services. We need to make such centers. And I would like to state that the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Shelter Home Scheme is still going on, and I'm a member of the community in Gujarat. There's a lot of work that has been done, and there are a lot of shelters which have been made. We just need some more funds on this, but the work has already started, and hence the states which don't have such assistance, for every 1 lakh population, we need to have such a shelter. This is a mandate which has been legally recognized, and I'm happy that, especially Soumya that you've given me a platform to talk about this. So I had to go back to reading this act of which I was a member of it, and safe drinking water and appropriate sanitation is something covered already in Section 24, is absolutely essential and has been mandated within the act. So hence, if the law says it, the government has to do it, and we need to move ahead with this. Even further, if we look at uh, natural disasters, which is subclause I of Section 24, talks about how it's essential to provide healthcare to them, and then they can receive the necessary medical care that's needed. So we are very happy that our legal provisions, even Section 35B, 37B, have recognized that all of these poverty elevation schemes, that I would want to inform that, you know, that within this reservation, women should be given a preference, and all people with disabilities any schemes which are available, they should, like if we look at WASH, it deals with district level alleviation. If there is any budget which is being given by the government, 5% of all of these funds are reserved for people with disability, and within that we have a preference for women who are disabled. So it's very important that we need to ensure proper implementation of this section, and we would want to ensure that all people are aware about this provision. And the last aspect is on sanitation and personal hygiene. And just as everybody else has access to this, people with disabilities also have access to this. And I'd like to tell all our authorities and tell them an approach to them and tell them that give them information that sanitation, water, and hygiene for people with disabilities is a right, and it's not a demand, it is a right that we should have access to them, and especially during COVID is absolutely essential. And with these words, I'd like to thank everybody and that we spoke on this subject matter, and it's and I would like to thank CFAR team and thank and showcase that this material can be showcased to everybody and can be. Thank you so much for this. I'd also like to talk about Basant Nair, who's specialized on budgeting and especially on gender budgeting. But today he will talk about particularly the gaps in budgeting concerning for people with disabilities. So we have Basant. So all the policies and programs that we have and the implementation of policies and policy and implementation depends upon budgeting. So our government of India prepares an annual budget, and the state governments also make an annual budget, and the municipalities also, in the urban sector you have municipalities, even they prepare a budget. And the only reason for the budget is that all the schemes and programs that exist and what provisions exist for people with disabilities, it should be implemented in a proper fashion. So, so, so we have the necessary money for it, and they should have access to it. So the first point is that if we have the budget, but the reflection, which is there's some people who are not in a position to access it, which is the biggest problem. The second issue is that we are preparing budget for the people, but it's not meeting the needs of the people. and hence there is no impact. For example, if there are 8 blind people with us, if exist in a colony, and and we prepared a budget for the blind person's development, but we didn't manage to meet their needs, and hence it could not be managed properly, and hence budget has a close connection with the implementation aspect of things. The second point is that data gaps is a big problem. Nowadays, the government of India and government of Orissa, Rajasthan, and municipalities and corporations, all of them prepare different budgets. And I'll put 2 3 examples. For instance, if we have a budget for providing wash services, so the practice with regard to the budgeting that exists today, we see it that budget is an incremental budget. Like for instance, yesterday, previous years, what are the wash services that were provided? For instance, if 1,000 rupees were provided, now in this year we would provide 1,100. So it's an incremental budget. But we didn't consider that in last year we had to support 100 people, and this year we had to 120. And we didn't find out what their essential needs were. For instance, with regard to wash services last year, the plan was to provide toilet to everybody, and this year the need could be different. The toilet also needs water, say for instance. Hence, the need analysis is something which is a big gap when we are making budget. Another example, suppose when we talk about sustainable cities and communities, we see every government and municipal corporation focuses on this, that it should be sustainable, and our city should be inclusive for everybody's needs also. But we didn't necessarily analyze that women or people with disabilities, the need that they have is absolutely different. For example, if we provision a toilet or a general toilet may not be fit for a person with disabilities. And if you go in the city, if you have transport services, but we didn't analyze that what are women's capabilities to access such transport facilities, or the transport station that exists in cities, what are the security measures. We do not analyze these provisions of specific needs, have been ignored and have we've not been analyzed, and hence the budgeting becomes incremental budgeting and is not the best budgeting possible. This is the second point. So whenever we make budget, the budget should have a base. The base should be the first one being like we need to analyze the needs of the people. We also say that there shouldn't be any poverty. So I just have 3 suggestions and recommendations. One is that at the government of India or RISA or some states, the municipal corporations are producing separate statement on gender and some states are making a separate statement on children, but we've completely forgotten about people with disabilities. So, hence we need a different budget for people with disabilities. The second is, in any programmer scheme, when we are targeting the people with disabilities or their members, we must have a outcome justed. So every scheme should analyze what is the kind of requirement has been generated for the people that we need. But there's nothing new in this. Many governments are already practicing this, and we can also do the same. This is the second. And the third thing is that when we are bringing many schemes in a program, perhaps we are not analyzing the real need. For instance, if we are putting some money on a scheme, we are assuming that every household is getting equal, but that's not in the true sense. Hence, different households may have different needs. And when we start making our budget based on some geographical needs or particular community needs, then the budgeted will have some true impact. And with Jaipur's context, we have Ravi sir, who's saying, with regard to the word people with disabilities, we have Naveen sir who would like to talk about this. Greetings to everybody. I'm Naveen Bharajwal from uh, the Jaipur Nagar Nigam, and I'm 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 the deputy commissioner, and I have to highlight a bit about the kind of schemes that are available to people with disabilities. Like, it's very important that in our development we need people with disabilities, and the Rural Livelihood Mission scheme, we have this aspect of self-help groups where general category there have to be 10 members present from, and from the people with disabilities we need 5 people who needs to be from people with disabilities background, and they should have the same facilities and subsidies available to the people from general category. The second aspect on skill development training, where people who are disabled should have their choice and get access to the type of the training they want, and how from their choice, from their trade and their employment, we should recommend what's there. Hence, self-employment scheme. Within that, people with disabilities have access to getting subsidies with regard to places and hiring them at a subsidized rate, and helps with regard to shelter homes. We have 17 shelter homes that are provided both at a temporary and permanent level, and hence there is a specific staff which has been dedicated towards people with disabilities, and without any problem, if any person comes from a disabled background, they should be incorporated, and there should be first aid boxes for the same in case of any medical assistance that's required. And other than that, within the COVID pandemic, if they, to ensure that they are not um, if to manage infection control, we've made sure that there are masks and sanitizers which are provided to everybody, and there are special officers who are dedicated to check that these facilities are being provided to them, and there are we are also managing social distancing to ensure that infection control is managed, and hence people with disabilities have we are trying to deal with a legal framework which safeguards their needs, and the and we're trying to ensure that the government schemes and programs available should be available to people with disabilities. So lastly, we'd have a question from a participant. The women who are people with disability, women who suffer from disabilities, if there is any scheme that can be provided towards within the NULM scheme, if there is some aspect of community involvement element present in this. So any person who suffers from disability, the priority that is kept with regard to training, that we can provide them the training that they need, be it knitting or stitching, and we can provide them training, and we also try to ensure that they get attached to the necessary trade for women as well as other people with disabilities. So I want to request that there should be two sessions which should be distributed. They will talk about livelihood and wash access issues that will be dealt with. Uh, any recommendations, and there should be Jaipur session which should be separately uh, go on this. So I would request everybody to, if they can divide the room. So we have Mr. Sri Chand sir, and we want to talk about how NULM schemes can be used for people with disabilities and what plans are there. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sri Chand from NULM Greater Nagar Nigam Jaipur, and within our day NULM scheme, we have a scheme for people with disabilities, and we have, and as our DC sir said, is with regard to health self-help groups for people with disabilities. There are, and hence any government scheme or fund which are to be given, and with regard to the same skill development training, and if within the city there is anybody who is any person with disability needs skill training, then our scheme ensures that there are residential courses available for them where they can stay and like have access to food and as well as get the necessary training that they need, and thereafter they are also placed within the necessary fields. Thereafter are there people with disabilities, if there are two three more people in a family, there are more than two or three members who are people with disability, there is this scheme called Astha card, wherein if there is a family which has two or more people from who are disabled, there is an Astha card that is provided, which after getting such a card, what categories, what assistance people below poverty line are given, they are provided with the same necessary facilities. Other than that, with regard to employment, mm, so with all the facilities that are available in Jaipur, and especially all of Rajasthan social welfare department, and all such schemes online are available, and hence pension scheme, if all people with disabilities shall have access to pension, that they previously in the conference they mentioned a person who is not having access to pension, and there are assistance that can be provided by him by the state government. Pension can be provided to that person. So people with disabilities and the kind of access to uh, government schemes that they have, and especially people from the community who are people who are also from people with a disabled background, they want to be associated, that CFAR should facilitate any project which needs any work together. That you'd be happy to hear that CFAR has been helping us to facilitate around 39 self-help groups because of them. And everybody who's been there has been a revolving fund of 10,000 rupees which has been provided to these revolving self-help groups, and we would provide the necessary assistance that they need, and the work that Safar is doing, we will provide them full support and on this subject matter. So हेलो। जी, बट मैम ये कितने देर और चलेगा? मेरे को 12:30 तक का बोला था। आई हैव अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट हियरिंग एट 1 o'clock, मैम। हेलो। मैम क्या करना है फिर?